Hobson was just 16 months old when she died at the hands of a woman who was supposed to look after her.
And now she's just a little bit floppy, to be honest with you.
All I could have done is taken her and ran off with her.
Frankie, you need to get away from her. She's going to ruin your life.
On September 22nd, 2020, one-year-old Star Hobson was rushed to the hospital by her mother, Frankie Smith, and her partner, Savannah Brockhill. One moment, Star was fine. The next, she was bruised all over and in need of urgent medical attention. Frankie and Savannah had their explanation for what happened, but Star's injuries told a different story. Not long after, she was dead. And it didn't take investigators long to realize the couple knew more than they were letting on. What really happened to Star? Why was her life cut short so suddenly? And most importantly, what was her mother hiding from the authorities? On that fateful day, Savannah Brockhill was visiting her partner, Frankie, at her apartment in Cayley, West Yorkshire. Frankie's one-year-old daughter, Star, was playing with two other children when Frankie stepped away to use the bathroom, leaving Star in Savannah's care. The moments that followed remained shrouded in mystery, but investigators would later uncover that Savannah had attacked the child. The bruises on Star's body revealed that she had been punched, kicked, and stamped upon, causing her to suffer internal injuries. Frankie had no idea what was happening. But when she came out of the bathroom, she was met with a shocking sight. Yet, rather than reacting like any mother would when their child is in danger, she did something else entirely. Instead of taking the child to a hospital, Savannah and Frankie spent the next 15 minutes looking for solutions on the internet. They searched for ways to treat shock in babies, but couldn't find anything helpful. By the time they decided to place a 999 call, it was too late. Star had already succumbed to her injuries. In the heat of the moment, Savannah came up with a cover story which she told the 999 operators to make sure no one would suspect her.
I was in the kitchen making a coffee, and they'd been in the living room, and I heard a bang.
When help arrived, Star was rushed to the hospital. Through it all, Savannah pressured Frankie to stick to the story she had concocted. But that wouldn't last for long. Frankie and Savannah first met in November 2019 at the Sun pub where Savannah worked as a bouncer. Growing up, Savannah was a passionate amateur boxer who dreamed of fighting at the Olympics. However, those Olympic dreams were crushed as a result of an injury, so she started working as a bouncer to make ends meet. The night they met, the two flirted a lot, and within a few weeks they got into a relationship. Frankie had just gotten out of her relationship with Star's father, Jordan Hobson, when she met Savannah. For Frankie, Savannah felt like a fresh start, a new chance at love. And for a while, it seemed that way. But soon, things took a different turn. Savannah became obsessive and controlling, demanding to know where Frankie was and what she was doing at all times. In a few months, Savannah's possessiveness escalated. She controlled who Frankie could see and refused to let her go anywhere without permission. What started as a perfect relationship had turned sour in such a short time. Before Frankie even realized it, she was trapped in an abusive relationship. Despite the pain and hurt it was causing her, Frankie clung to Savannah. Unfortunately, little Star was pulled into the mix and had to face the consequences of her mother's decisions. Before long, she became the target of Savannah's violence. And that was just the beginning. Like many abusers, Savannah isolated Frankie and Star from their loved ones, making sure they had no one to turn to. She not only controlled Frankie, but also pressured her into disciplining Star harshly. With no way of knowing what was really happening, Frankie's family had no chance to step in and help. At some point, Savannah posted a video on Frankie's Snapchat in which she called herself a psycho. In the video, she threatened to break the kneecaps of anyone who would try to speak to Frankie.
If you want to keep your kneecaps, I suggest you stop sending her them.
While Savannah openly asserted her dominance over Frankie, she tried to keep her abuse of Star hidden, but it wouldn't stay that way for long. In January 2020, one of Frankie's friends called social services to report their concerns about Star's welfare. An investigation was initiated, and a social worker visited the child twice. However, by March, the case was closed without any further action. 2 months later, Star's grandmother discovered that Savannah had been using her wrestling moves on the little girl, and Frankie was doing nothing to stop her. She immediately reported the case to social services, prompting the reopening of the investigation. By June 2020, the signs of abuse had become impossible to ignore. A bruise had appeared on Star's cheek, but when questioned, the couple claimed it was from a fall. That same month, Star's father, fearing for her safety, contacted social services, yet once more, the case was closed. Less than a month later, Savannah proved that while things were already dire for Star, they could quickly become far worse. One night, Frankie allowed her to take Star to work, and she took it as the perfect opportunity to inflict unspeakable harm on the 1-year-old. By the end of the night, Star's body was marked by the brutal cruelty of Savannah. Realizing the weight of her actions, Savannah frantically searched the internet for ways to erase the bruises as quickly as possible, desperate to cover her tracks. In August that year, a new set of large bruises that closely resembled a handprint appeared on the side of Star's head. A doctor who examined the child noted that the bruising was caused by slaps.
It was a tiny, tiny little bruise, but I don't know, I just knew something wasn't right.
However, Savannah claimed that Star had sustained them from falling down the stairs. The abuse on Star continued for months, and Frankie did nothing to protect her or leave the abusive relationship. Some reports even suggest that Frankie actively participated with Savannah in hurting the child on several occasions. Shockingly, the couple frequently recorded videos of the abuse for their own entertainment, with their laughter audible in the background as they captured Star falling off a chair or down the stairs. Other times, Savannah would edit the videos and add dramatic music and captions to make them more interesting. She would later admit that she found the videos funny and compared them to clips on "You've Been Framed." Aside from the couple's homemade videos, other records of their abuse on Star came from CCTV cameras. A week before Star's death, Savannah took her to work for an overnight shift. She claimed she was watching the child to give Frankie a chance to spend the night out drinking, but there were darker motives at play. CCTV from Savannah's workplace captured her hurting the child in her car. She punched and slapped Star, severally leaving her with bruises all over her body. While Frankie was out having fun, her 1-year-old daughter endured unspeakable torture at the hands of her lover. Star had suffered relentless abuse at Savannah's hands until that tragic day in September, when her short life was violently taken. After her death,
"No child should ever suffer as Star suffered, and particularly not at the hands of those that are supposed to be caring for them."
doctors determined that she had been killed by a devastating punch or kick, delivered with the force of a car crash. There was no doubt Savannah had used her boxing skills on the defenseless child. A pathologist discovered that the assault had torn Star's vena cava, leading to severe internal bleeding and extensive organ damage. Additionally, she had bruises near her lungs and pancreas, along with older injuries, including a fractured ankle and skull. When the case reached the courtroom, graphic details of Savannah's abuse of Star were laid bare. The proceedings also uncovered the harrowing truth about Savannah and Frankie's toxic relationship, and the slow, devastating toll it took on Star. Savannah vehemently denied any involvement in the child's death, insisting that Star had injured herself while her back was turned. To strengthen her story, she proposed that the injuries could have been the result of an accident or inflicted by one of the 2 other children who had been playing with Star that day. She even suggested the possibility that Star might have fallen from the sofa. Frankie, on the other hand, maintained that Savannah was to blame for what happened to Star. As the trial progressed, it became clear that Frankie had a low IQ and was very obedient, which made her easily manipulated. She would follow authority figures without question. Savannah, who was 8 years older than Frankie, took advantage of this. She would boss Frankie around and force her to create a strict eating and sleeping routine. Savannah had a tough image, hence it was easy for her to lord herself over Frankie. She even admitted to posting videos online threatening to harm anyone who dared to flirt with Frankie. When given the chance, Savannah brought up her boxing career, claiming that she had easily dropped men and women and could move a 50-kilogram bag. Halfway through the trial, Frankie pleaded guilty to 8 instances of child cruelty against Star between April to September 2020. In the end, the jury accepted that Savannah was the killer. They also agreed that Frankie did not murder her child. In December 2021, Savannah Brockhill was convicted of murder. Even though the jury agreed that Frankie hadn't killed her daughter, they didn't let her walk away scot-free. She was found guilty of causing or allowing her daughter's death. Savannah was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum of 25 years, while Frankie was sentenced to 8 years, which was later increased to 12 years by the Court of Appeal.
Our judgment, no less a sentence than 12 years custody would meet the justice of this case.
What do you think about this case? Do you think a 12-year sentence is enough for a mother like Frankie who did nothing to save her child? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.